All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the bonus section of this podcast. Here I have a guest, my friend David from one of my EDH playgroups.
Hello.
So, David, tell me, are you a Voltron player, or do you often come across people who play Voltron? What's your take on this strategy in EDH? How viable is it?
I don't play a lot of Voltron decks. I do face a couple of opponents who do play Voltron quite often, and it's a fun mechanic to use because commander damage allows you to bypass certain types of decks like life gain decks or decks that just pillow fort and just swing once and they're dead. That allows you to win and end the game.
It's nice that you mentioned this because so for you guys that didn't know, I didn't let Dave hear my the podcast I was making earlier on, but these are just to let you know, Dave, like these are the things that I mentioned in the podcast. I say like it is a viable strategy against those type of decks. So with that being said, do you feel like the number 21 is fair? Should commander damage be removed completely, like some of the more like I think like the command zone Josh was like for removing of commander damage, which as you know, like upset me greatly because I'm like, well, you're destroying the entire archetype.
Yes, but I'm not for removing commander damage, just like I said, because it allows you to win against certain strategies. For example, an infinite life gain deck, how are you gonna beat that? Unless you combo out or play a Lab Maniac deck or something like that.
Yeah,
it will just increase the power of certain types of deck.
Yeah. With that being said, let's say you sit down on a 4-person table. How would you assess the threat level of your opponents? Like, let's say there's different archetypes, but let's say you just imagine yourself in a pod with various archetypes. Like, you just see their commander and say, okay, I think this commander is going to do this certain strategy. Which one would be your initial target, just right off the bat? Like, would it be the Voltron player, the maybe combo player, the maybe stacks?
The Voltron player, of course, he can kill in one hit, and that's one of the big problems with those decks. But if properly managed, they're not that of a threat. It's just that they can explode and kill you one turn. So I would go for combo players or decks that go out fast, but not necessarily the Voltron player.
Yeah, because as I think like the other time I mentioned in our group chat on Facebook, that personally I feel like the player, well, it's not a player you would want to kill first, but they often sneak away with the win, right? It's the group hugger. Like the group hugger is always one of the last ones to survive because nobody attacks the group hug deck.
No, you gain a benefit from having him on the table. It usually allows you to ramp up your strategy, go for your win, beat all the other players, and group hug players don't necessarily have huge defenses. So basically, they're easy to kill after, or so you think.
Yeah, but they can also sneak in a win, right? Like at first you make sure you make your opponents kill each other, and then in the end, I don't know, you give him like.
Yes, I do play a group hug deck, and that's the strategy. At some point of the game, everybody's happy. Everybody has their combo pieces out, their strategy. They're ready to win, but I just sneak the victory from under them because I can combo out too, because I do get benefits from playing.
Do you often see like Voltron players playing one-shot kill, or it's mostly something gradual, like a few combat steps?
I think it's more of a you can't go straight to a one-shot kill because it would require a lot of mana to
a lot of setup.
Cast your commander, equip it, or cast auras on it, then give him haste, then swing. So I see them more as progressive decks. You play your commander, next turn you equip it, then you swing, do massive damage to one player. Next turn, boost it some more, and so on until you kill one player or your commander can just one-shot anybody at the table.
Yeah, like also in the podcast I mentioned that if someone is getting started, okay, let's say if someone is getting started into EDH and they want to play Voltron, what would be your advice to them in terms of just like beginner friendly sort of commander strategies? Like what commander to pick? Are there any sort of like better commanders out there for Voltron, and why? Like for me, for me, I just mentioned
that gives you good abilities like double strike, indestructible, X-proof, things that gives evasion, like protection, flying, things that those are the better commanders. For example, Sigara is an amazing commander because that's X-proof, that's flying, and can't be sacrificed.
Yeah,
that's probably one of the best Voltron commanders.
I feel like on
Uriel that also has X-proof and gets the boost for each aura. Those are the two best examples that pop into my mind.
Yeah, I feel like those are definitely the two best commanders for beginner Voltron, at least, like if you're getting into it, because you don't want to overthink about protecting your creature, because if you equip and then it gets destroyed in response, is the worst feeling to have.
Yeah.
Like for creatures without hexproof, I normally would go like lower CMC. So like with Akiri or some merfolk, or that even a blue-white snake or Karloff, like those that are lower down, because you have to recast them several times.
Yes, because one of the main weaknesses of a Voltron deck is that your commander is a prime target.
Yeah.
You put it out there, it's gonna get removed fast.
Yeah, because people understand that when you're playing Voltron, you're pretty much an all-in strategy, and if your Voltron if you can't recast your commander, you may have at best one or two other options to close out the game.
Yes,
and for most part, people,
your commander is your only creature most of the time. It's your only offense and your only defense. You put everything in, all your eggs in one basket.
So how like important is the hex-proof ability? Like, let's say if you're playing against someone who has a hex-proof commander, would that be something that really bothers you a lot, or you sacrifice board wipes and kind of be impartial to it?
Everything that gives you some kind of protection, or like indestructible or X-proof shroud, are good or amazing commanders, because you can't get rid of them easily. You slap on some equipment to protect them from board wipes or from other sources of destruction, and you're golden. You basically have an invincible creature that's really hard to remove, that does a lot of damage, that's a threat to everybody on the board. Those keywords are mostly primordial for a good Voltron deck, I would say.
So how would you deal with a Voltron player? What sort of answers, what sort of cards do you meta against, like any Voltron decks in your decks? Well, like, do you put Glacial Chasm or Fog?
Well, Glacial Chasm will drain you over time. Well, it'll save you. Fogs are one shots, so they're more or less useful. Most Voltron commanders do have a little window where they are exposed before you equip them, before you cast an aura on them, unless it has X-proof or indestructible. That little window is usually when you kill them. If not, board wipes are usually a good option, but again, indestructible or totem armors do give great advantage against board wipes. If not, one of the best mechanics I've seen to remove Voltron commanders is the sack mechanic, because sacrifice.
Yeah, oh man, sacrifice.
One of the best mechanics, because it doesn't target. It forces the opponent to sacrifice a creature, and since there's only one or two creatures on the board for these players, they're pretty easy to get rid of.
Yeah,
and most sacrifice spells, they don't cost a lot either.
Yeah,
it's 1 or 2 or 3 mana at most.
Yeah, there was one game I speed cast like my Euro, and the guy just, innocent blood, 1 mana, So I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because you're mentioning a lot of things that I talked about during the podcast. And this is one of them. Like the biggest difference between Euro and Sigarda is you're trading off, like first of all, you're trading off an additional color in red, but also you're trading off the sacrifice ability, because if you're not playing against black, you're golden. Like I'm a Euro player, as you know, and the only thing I hate the most seeing is like anything with Dictative Airbow. So anything in black. Usually black has the most sacrifice effects. You sometimes see them in white. Let me know if you can think of any white cards that people might play in EDH that sack, but usually they're black, right?
Yes.
So I'd say like, but why I brought this up is a lot of times Voltron players, or at least, you know, myself included, we run a very low creature density, and sometimes we have an additional challenge saying, you know what, we'll just run one single creature. And how do you feel about that? Is that viable, or maybe it's only Sigarda because you know she doesn't get sacrificed? Like, what's a good creature count to run? Because you're not using creatures to win, right?
No.
So they're kind of there just to support the commander, like Pure Steel Paladin,
again,
or
the choice of creatures to support compared to artifacts, equipments, enchantments, auras. It all depends on what you want to achieve. If you want to include a Mother of Rune that will give protection to your commander, that's amazing. It's also a sack outlet if you need to sacrifice a creature. It's protection, but again, an equipment would probably do the same thing, give a bonus to attack and defense, part toughness, and probably give some other benefits.
Yeah.
So it always depends on what you want to achieve.
Yeah, because like
I'm sure you can probably build a Voltron deck with 30 or 40 creatures if all these creatures boost your commander.
I think there is one. There's the descendant of Sisei. I think she gets +1/+1 for each other creature in play or something like that.
Captain Sisei of the Weatherlight?
No, it's the green white Sisei.
Okay.
I think she does that.
White gets a bonus for every creature you control.
Yeah, but I'm not so sure if she's really Voltron deck. It seems more like just a general green white.
Well, your deck build is dependent on what you achieve. You can probably build any commander as Voltron if you want.
Yeah.
It's all dependent on one creature.
Oh, that's true.
Find a way to bring out your equipment, your enchantments, your support for that creature. I'm sure you can probably build white or black Voltron deck without any problems.
That being said, David, you know one card that got me excited, but also was a huge laugh, kind of. The new card from Ikoria, I think it's called Colossification. Now every commander is a Voltron commander. You just slap this on and
yes, because if it has one power, it can one-shot anybody.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Then next, I guess, would you consider what's it called? Would you consider Skidorex a Voltron commander, or no, because it kills by infect?
Basically, I would consider it a Voltron commander because you're dependent on one creature. You're boosting that creature. You want to do as much damage with this one creature. The fact that it has infect instead of commander damage is irrelevant because it's another way to kill with damage from one creature. Skidorex fits the description of a Voltron commander properly.
Yeah. Because I agree with you completely as well. The only thing I would add on to it is on the other side is because if you Skidorex for just 4, I think it's a 4/4, right? You could still make up the 6 infect with other black creatures. Now, I don't think there's that many of them, but there's probably a good 4 to 6 and maybe another 4 to 6 colorless ones.
There's the proliferate mechanic that's available in artifact form.
Yeah,
that can compensate. So it's other ways to provide the poison counters. Again, backup support for your Voltron strategy.
So I guess like we'll like close off soon. So is there anything else you'd like to sort of mention to people who let's say two things. So the first thing is any advice you have for Voltron players and any advice for people playing against Voltron.
Well, advice for Voltron players:
Yeah.
don't put all your eggs in one basket. Have some other creatures, some support. Again, if somebody's cast a sacrifice spell, we'll have a sacrifice source, not just your commander. It will provide protection.
How do you while you're on this, I do want to ask you this more. Well, it's a personal question, but at the same time it's relevant to this too. How do you feel about running things like Mutavault and Mishra's Factory in a pinch? You know what those cards are?
Yeah, those lands that turn into a creatures like Inkmont Nexus.
Yeah, is it bad or is it a bit too? Is it okay or is it a bit too desperate? If I just need, I'm just turn this into a creature and sack this instead.
Well, it works. Your Voltron strategy would work with them perfectly because
wouldn't be too try hard.
You need if you can't cast your commander, these are backups. You equip them, you fight with them, you use them as best as you can to get a win.
No, I mean like you turn it into creature in response to a sack effect. Along the same line
protection.
of
Again,
yeah.
Yes, because it's protection, sack effects, the other spells that targets you can redirect spells or whatever.
But on the stack it works, right? Like if someone casts a sacrifice spell and I do that, yes. Or if let's say I fetch for a Dryad Arbor for some reason, I could sack the Dryad Arbor instead?
Yes, you can. Because when the spell resolves, as there's no target, you will need to sacrifice for the resolution. If there's only one creature, let's say your Voltron commander, you will need to sacrifice it. If for some reason another creature enters the battlefield under your control and you is still there when the effect resolves, you can sacrifice it. So basically those cards, those lands that turn into creatures, those are great in the Voltron deck, not only as defense but also as offense.
Okay, so what you're mentioning is kind of like have sort of more additional ways to protect the commander, right? But in the case, let's say if the commander costs like 9 or 11 CMC because after tax, and it just no longer feels profitable to do that, what backups would a Voltron player have, or they're just screwed at that point?
At this point, if you can't cast your commander, either put more lands into play or accept that you will die without a creature to defend yourself.
Okay, so moving on, then I guess the last thing would be what advice would you give to people playing against Voltron players?
Well, if you can't beat the Voltron player, politics.
Oh yes, David, you're the king of politics. I remember.
I know, but it works. Basically, there's this big creature that will one-shot another player. What do? Make an alliance to kill remove that player, or just hope that it doesn't swing on you and one-shot you. It's politics in EDH is amazing. It's a viable strategy for most decks. If you're weak, if your deck is not responding properly, or if you just have bad luck, politics will allow you to gain an extra turn or two, give you time to draw a card or resources. The trade-off, of course, is sometimes you can't. If you follow through your promises, you probably will miss out on some opportunities to remove an opponent. But if not, it will save your ass. And if not, well, you can always make an alliance with a Voltron player to be the last one and collaborate with him, giving you more time to find an answer for this guy.
So other than that, what type of cards would you recommend people to play more of in their control or like answer package in any color?
It all depends on which colors you play. Like I said, psych effects are good. Board wipes, they don't care if your commander has X-proof or protection, it will just kill them. But again, if the opponent puts a totem around it, it doesn't work as well. So basically, have response, be ready to board wipe, be ready to have a way to kill it while it's not protected. Swords Plowshare, Doomblade, or whatever makes the job, gets the job done. If not, just pray that he doesn't kill you.
All right. Cool. Awesome. So thanks, David, for joining this chat with me.
My pleasure.
Yeah. All right. Have a good day.
You too.
Yeah,
Take
bye.
care.